Benvenuti listeners and welcome back to the Anglo-Italian Connection Football Podcast. Guys, we are 11 episodes in and we're feeling more confident and excited than ever. This project is really shaping up nicely, more than we had ever expected. We have a bunch of studio equipment ready to be used starting from next week. So this is the last Friday that you have to cope with this sound quality. But one of the big exciting news is in this very episode already, because Rory was able to reel in quite the guest. Liam Bond from Footy Manager Memes. Rory, how did you manage to do that?
Well, you know how I do. I slid into his DMs. He put a thing up looking for writers for his website, and I said to him, look, I know it's not strictly writing, but I'm a big fan of a spicy meme, especially a Football Manager spicy meme. And look, me and my mate started this podcast. Do you fancy coming on? And thankfully, he said yes. And the weird thing is, we didn't reference it. He lives 2 minutes away from my house in Crewe. He lives in Nantwich. It's so weird. So, yeah, it was great. And it was a great chat. And I'm looking forward to you guys hearing it. I gave myself a pat on the back for that one, I think.
You did an amazing job, and Liam was a great guy. He was very available, and I think he enjoyed it too. So thank you, Liam, once again. By the way, guys, if you ever want to find a specific part of the podcast, remember that in our Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify description, you can see which bit starts at which point. And by the way, my name hasn't changed, and as always, I'm Tommaso Dami, and you can find us on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod.
And my name is still Rory Criscuolo, and you can find us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod.
So one thing that we need to talk about, absolutely, since you just asked me, or maybe you didn't, how I'm doing.
Sorry, Tommy. How are you today?
I'm doing great. And last night, I watched the Totti documentary, Mi chiamo Francesco Totti, on Amazon Prime. I'm very bummed that Rory hasn't seen it yet. But this is just to tell you guys, go and watch it. It's a very, very good sports documentary. I wish it had focused a bit more on really the teams and the players that he played with. It talks more about his life and football, how he became Roma's captain, the difficulties he had to go through, how he came up from Roma's youth ranks. And it really... The thing that they do the best, they make you feel like part of his family for a little second. There is this part that was filmed in the seaside town where he moved, because Roma is very close to the seaside. So he would move to a town close to Roma during the summertime with his family, a very big Southern Italian family, parents, cousins everywhere. And there is footage from his first Italy call-up, and he's wearing a suit, and all of his family, they're wearing flip-flops and shirts. Some of them are shirtless, and they're all hugging him. And because it's his voice in the background. And when he looks at the picture, he says, man, it was hot that day. It was at noon. It was super hot. Everybody was ready to go to the beach, and I was a little bummed because I was living with the national team. So the fact that Totti talks about his life and they didn't hire a voice actor, I think that makes a big, big difference. Also, if you are an Inter fan, you will notice how much footage there is of not only Totti, but of Roma players in general, scoring beautiful goals against Inter.
It's typical.
Especially Totti. He had a thing for scoring sick goals at Inter.
Guys, I think when I was researching him for another episode, his most goals are against Inter and Lazio, I think, in his career. The two teams he scored against most. It's crazy.
Unbelievable. But yeah.
Big stage player. But I will definitely be watching that. It's a good excuse to practice my Italian. So I'm excited. Yeah.
And what about you, Rory? How are you feeling this week?
Well, in lieu of there not being any Premier League football, I've been watching more of Crewe Alexandra. So I've been going back to my roots, so to speak. So there's a website, the EFL have ran this thing called iFollow, where you pay £20 a month if you're abroad. If you're at home, it's like £20 per game. And you can watch your team every week. So I've been watching Crewe a lot. And this week I watched them 3 times. I can't remember. We're absolutely killing it. We got promoted from League 2 to League 1 this year, playing beautiful football. in a league that we've only just arrived in. We just beat top of the table at home, and we've already played a lot of the big teams like Hull, Sunderland. These are teams that are all ex-Premier League teams. We're still mid-table. We look comfortably like we could stay up, touch wood. And honestly, the football we are playing has impressed me. That's what's impressed me the most. I think anyone who knows about Crewe will know that we usually have a good crop of youngsters coming through. But this year we have some that are really starting to make their name a little bit.
So would you say that you have confirmed your lower league Barcelona status?
I think we're getting there, and I'm waiting for people to shoot me down on that one. But if you want to see the players I'm talking about, you need to look at players like Charlie Kirk, Harry Pickering, Tom Lowry, Ryan Wintle. These players are all easily, I would say, championship, potentially lower side Premier League standard players, especially Harry Pickering. He's a left back, and he's absolutely killing it this year. I wanted to give them a bit of airtime because I think they deserve it. They're playing very, very good, very nice football.
By the way, before we jump to our Euro review, in which we're going to speak about the Nations League, the maybe upcoming European Championship tournament, and the Serie A and the Premier League, I want to tell you, Rory, about another Anglo-Italian connection that I have found, or rather an Irish-Italian connection. So you were talking a few weeks back about Dundalk's manager, who is a mysterious Italian. So this coach, I went and looked him up online. He grew up in the region where I grew up, which is Marche, and there are very few people who are from there, except, Mancini is from there as well. Okay. But it was interesting to see that we're talking about your mom's town, and the manager comes from my same region in Italy.
That's crazy.
Felt like sharing our newly found Irish-Italian connection.
I like that. I like it.
I think we're all set to jump to our Euro review.
Let's review the lack of football. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Welcome, listeners, to the Euro review this week. So now that all the European qualifiers are finished and the Nations League is finished, I will try and explain the difference. We can now look forward to Euro 2021. So we're going to be looking at the groups that are now confirmed. And to do this, we're going to be looking at results in both the European qualifiers and the Nations League. Now, if you're like me, every time I have to check these results, I'm looking at which tournament it is and trying to organize it in my head. Is that a qualifier? Is that a Nations League? I thought the Nations League was a qualifier. It's all very confusing, but we're going to try and make it simple by just telling you what the groups are.
So for the listeners who are not European, the Nations League is a new competition, and we are still figuring it out. Because if you think that it's confusing that we play the National League, the National Cup, and the European competition all at the same time, this is even stranger than that. It's an unprecedented event in football.
So it's a system of trying to get rid of meaningless international friendlies. I think that UEFA could recognise that nobody was watching a friendly between England and Greece when there's nothing on the line, right? Or San Marino against France. Like, there's no point in that game being played, no disrespect to San Marino. So what they've done is set up this competition that will feed into European qualification, but also be separate. That means that the teams are playing teams of their level, and they are able to be promoted and relegated at the end of each tournament.
Headache central over here.
I think that in my head that made sense. So basically, for example, in Nations League A this week,
it feels like, those tricky classes that you maybe
get your pencil out.
Take your pencil out and you try to figure out things as you're explaining them to the children. All right, good.
So, for example, in Nations League A, which is the top division, okay, it's all finished, and now the final four are Italy, France, Spain, and Belgium. They will
you can say
go into the semi-final and then final, which will be played in October next year.
In Italy.
So be patient, in Italy. But the teams that finished bottom of those groups, in Group A, are now in Division B, and they are Bosnia, Iceland, Sweden, and Switzerland. So they will go into Group B, right?
Mm-hmm.
and the winners from Group B will come into Group A, Group B, C, and it goes all the way down to Group D. Right?
Great.
I hope that's clear.
I hope so too. But now let's jump to the Euro 2021 groups, which are now confirmed. So as you know, some teams were still missing. So some groups were featuring only 3 teams. And after this week's fixtures, finally, the groups are all complete.
Good. Yeah. So let's start looking through the group with Group A.
Featuring the likes of Italy, Switzerland, Turkey, and Wales. So, as you know, Italy are Nations League Final Four, are one of the Nations League Final Four tournament, which will take place next year in October in Italy. They are looking very good, in my opinion, and I feel like people are really starting to get excited about this new Italian team. Okay, so why are people very excited? Well, maybe because we missed out on a World Cup when we last had the opportunity to. And
whose fault was that? Was that Ventura's fault or the players' fault?
That was, I think, the entire Italian Football Federation's fault, and also the manager. But yeah, people are very excited. Manuel Locatelli, guys. If you follow Serie A and you must have been following Sassuolo, you know that Manuel Locatelli, who was an AC Milan reject, basically he's really turning up, both at Sassuolo and both at Italy. He had a beautiful assist for Sassuolo teammate Berardi 2 evenings ago against Bosnia. Beautiful team play. And I think he could be one of the key players in the upcoming European Championship.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I saw that he linked up with his teammate Berardi the other night, and I think it's nice to see not just the same team names kind of appearing in the national team. I think for Sassuolo to have a few representatives shows that, you know, they're making the moves that we've been saying they're making. So that's good.
I mean, at the World Cup in 2006, the Grosso, Zaccardo, Barzagli, they all used to play for Palermo, who were not a powerhouse in Italy, but they were having a very good season. And I think that actually all these international tournaments, at the end of the day, they are very short. So you need a team with a lot of grit, a lot of desire to win, because in the end, if you make it all the way to the final, you're going to play only 6 or 7 games. It's not that many. You just need a very hungry team. And I feel like players who come from smaller teams, they might even have more desire to really show what they're made of.
Of course, yeah, this is their big stage, right? But I also think it comes into form as well. I think for tournaments, it has to be players that are in form. If you've only got them for a month, you need to make sure that they're at the peak of their powers at that point, right?
Do you think that Wales can make it through this group?
I think Wales are like a massive dark horse. I think they've just got promoted from stepping to the Nations League. In the Nations League, they've just got promoted from Group B into Group A. They're making big strides. I think of the home nation teams, they're kind of the second best now after England. I think for a while it was Ireland, but Wales are comfortably now kind of making steps ahead of Ireland and Northern Ireland. They've got some really good young players like Nico Williams, Daniel James at Manchester United. They've got some older heads there with Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale. Like, it feels like a good bond there. And the manager, although we can't really talk about Ryan Giggs because he's not really in charge anymore, but if they get a manager in charge full time, then that squad could really. I think that, especially with Turkey and Switzerland, you never know what they're going to do.
What's the deal with Giggs? He's got a podcast too.
There's a lot of allegeds going on here. He allegedly beat up his missus, and the Welsh FA have like taken him away from the role. I don't want to talk about it. Ryan Giggs is such a dark guy. Such a dark guy. Yeah.
Didn't know anything about this whole story. I'm sorry.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Everyone in England will be laughing because they know exactly what type of person he is. So it's fine.
Before we jump to Group B, I just think that this group featuring Italy, Switzerland, Turkey, and Wales is going to be an interesting group. I do not think that Italy are going to win all 3 games. I think there is going to be a tie somewhere there. Switzerland are a pretty decent team, even though they just got relegated into the Nation League's Group B. I still think that they have a pretty good young team. And Turkey, a lot of exciting talent too. So I think it's going to be a closer group than expected. I don't think Italy are going to steamroll through it.
No,